Welcome back to the Python series. In this video we are going to discuss about for loops in Python. Generally a for loop is used to iterate over a sequence. The sequence is nothing but you iterate through a list or tuple or dictionary or set or string. With the help of for loop we can execute a set of statements once for each time in a list or set or tuple or string. So let's take an example. Here I have just created a new Python file. So let's create a list. Here is our list. So in this list I just want to print the elements one after one. So how can we do that? Well, let's see the general method that we know. Print of L. So let's run this. Here we can see we got the entire list, but we want each and every element one after one. So here we can use for loop. For here we used a new variable I to just iterate through the list starting from first element in the list. So here what happens is I starts iterating through the list starting from the first one. Here we can debug it, keep a breakpoint and then click on debug. So here we can see if we move forward, first I will start at 25 and after that I will become 2.9, so that is the second element. After that I will become the third element and after that I will move to the fourth one. So in this way we use I for iterating through the loop. So remove the breakpoint. So now let's run this. Here we can see we got each and every one after other. So here for loop can be used in a situation to get the output individually one after another. So we can do the same thing in another way. So first let's comment this. Instead of using the variable L or creating a separate list, we can use it directly. For I in, just copy this and paste this. Print I. So let's run this. Here we can see we got the same output. So that's about for loop. So now let's see the concept of nested for loop, that is one for loop inside another for loop. First let's clear this. So let's create two lists. Here we have created three lists. First one is programming languages list and the other is editors list. Here we have Python, C, Java, C++ and the editors are PYCHARM, Eclipse, Turbo and then Visual Studio. Here S is a nested list that has both programming language list and then the editors list. So how can we print the elements inside programming languages and editors one after one? The general way is print of s. So let's run this. Here we can see we got a list of nested lists, but we don't need the list of nested lists, but we need the elements. So how can we access that? We can use nested for loops. Here I is a variable used for iteration, and then let's take another for loop. Elements in I, print elements. So here elements is also another variable used for iterating. So here what happens is, for I in S, so I first point towards the programming languages list. So in that, for each element, print that element. So I is pointed towards the programming languages list, that is this list. So for elements in I, so that elements is pointed towards the first one. So the first output will be Python, and the second one is C language, and then the third is Java, and fourth is C++. After that, I equals to first one is completed, so that I is pointed towards the second list, that is editors list. So that is this one. So now if we print the elements in I, first it will give PyCharm, after that it will give Eclipse, after that it will give TUPLE, and then after it will give Visual Studio. So let's run this. Here we can see we got all of them one after another: Python, C, Java, C++, PyCharm, Eclipse, TUPLE, and then Visual Studio. We can also debug it and test it. So let's click on debug. Here I is pointed towards the first list. If you run it for first time, it will print element is pointed to Python, so it will print element Python, and after that it will print C, after that it will print Java, and then after that it will print C++, and after that it will point towards the editors list. So here also same thing happens. So that's about nested for loop. So let's print numbers from 0 to 10. So how can we do that? We can use while loop. And how can we do that in for loop? To loop through the numbers, we have a built-in function called range. So range is a built-in function that returns a sequence of numbers starting from 0 by default and increment by 1 by default. So let's use this. For I in range of 10. So here we will have, in the syntax of range, we will have three parameters, that is start, stop, and then step. By default, start is set to 0 and stop is the number that is given by us. In this case it's 10, and the step is by default 1. And like as in list, here stop is excluded, that is 10 is excluded, so that it starts printing from 0 to 9. Let's print I. So let's run this. Here we can see we got the numbers from 0 to 9. 10 is excluded. So let's take another example. Let's print the even numbers. for I in range of 100. If I modulus 2 equals to 0, print I. So let's run this. It will print the numbers, that is even numbers from 0 to 99. End space equals to, let's run this. Here we can see we got all the even numbers from 0 to 99 excluding 100. So how can we print this in reverse order? Starting from 100 till 0 and the step is -1. So let's run this. Here we can see in this way we can print the even numbers in reverse order also. So that's about range function. So now let's see some of the looping techniques which are useful. Take the older two lists, and now how can we combine two lists? For this we have a built-in function called zip. So now let's use the zip function and a for loop to access the elements inside the zip. Let's take P to access the elements after zipping in programming languages, and then E for editors in zip of programming languages, and then editors. So let's print P E. So let's run this. Here we can see we got the elements. Programming language is Python and the editor is PYCHARM. Language is C and it is Turbo C. After it is Java. For Java it's Eclipse. For C++ it's Visual Studio. So here there are equal number of elements in both the sets. What happens if there are unequal? So let's take 3 here and then 4 here. So let's run this. Here we can see we got only 3. That means while we fetch the elements from a zipped one, it will search for the least possible sets or least possible combinations. So now if we just place 1 and then 4 in the next one, we will see only Python. So here we have a list editor. So how can we print the elements inside this list in a sorted way? For this we have another technique, that is sort. So let's use it. For I in sorted of editors, print I. So let's run this. Here we can see we got the ascending order or sorted way. Now how can we print in a descending order? Reverse equals to true. So let's run this. Oh, we got an error. Sorry, it has to be placed here. In this condition we can just place this. So let's run this. Here we can see we got in descending order.